Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Joel Dover. I pastor the Calvary Chapel Church here in Newnan. It's an honor and a privilege to join us in opening prayer tonight. Shall we pray? Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the goodness, for the kindness, for the mercies of God, which are new every morning. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of prayer. We're thankful that when we pray, Father, our prayers are not merely words in the room, but, Lord, that they make their way all the way to the throne room of God and that you hear us. Tonight, Lord, we pray that you would make your eyes attentive to what is happening here, to the business of our great city, that you would make your ears open, Lord, to our prayers and petitions. And I'm thankful, Lord, for a group of civic leaders who opens their meeting with prayer to say to you and to our community, we desire the leadership of God in our midst. Look upon us, Lord, give counsel and wisdom to these men and women, to all who are speaking. And we pray, Father, that as business is conducted, it will be in accordance with your perfect will. We pray all of this, that it may bring glory to your name, in the mighty, matchless name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, with that, we move into the reading of the minutes from the regular meeting on April 14th, 2026. If there's no objection, I'll consolidate that with the meetings from the work session on the same day.
I have an objection.
Okay. All right, then we'll just go through letter A. Minutes from the regular meeting on April 14th, 2026. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Yes, there is.
All right.
On page 4, the appointments to the Youth Activities Commission, the third one by Councilwoman Morrison. I need to make sure we annotate who seconded that motion. It was just didn't make it quite into the minutes.
Oh, great. All right. Noting that correction for the secretary. Any further corrections?
No questions. I would like to ask the city manager for an update on the off-agenda item that we had last meeting, just kind of see where we're at on that. With the it was the Councilman Thomason's request to research and present to the city council for consideration of a possible ordinance.
Right now, we're actually only dealing with the minutes, so.
This is a minute. I'm just asking him if he could address
No,
that during his moments.
He's more than welcome to, but this is just for the minutes. It's out of order. So any other corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Do we have a second?
With the amendment?
As amended, yes. Hearing that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. Moving to the minutes from the work session on April 14, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. With that, we move into recognition of the new Youth Council members and the graduates after that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a couple of things going on tonight, so let me explain to you what's going to happen. First, we have students who always come to our meetings, particularly our nighttime meetings. It is a requirement for the Youth Council members to come to one of our meetings. So tonight, we have with us, and please stand when I call your name, Catherine Ross Pass, who's a junior at Newnan High. And we also have Liam Bulford, a senior at Newnan High. Thank you all for joining us. They will take this information back to their group and tell them what happened, and then they'll discuss it. The second thing we have going, you can sit down, thank you. The second thing we have is to honor the seniors tonight. So before we go down to present the certificates and honor cords and all that, I'd like to recognize the adults in the room who work tirelessly with these students throughout, hopefully, 3 years of service with the city of Newnan. So hold on, where did you run off to? Mike Furbish, first of all, is our director, and he has been for, 15 years now? Isn't that about what it is? Mike has been great about being the city liaison to work with students and is there every single time they meet. And then we have our Newnan Youth Activities Commission members. If you are a Newnan Youth Activities Commission member, please raise your hand to be recognized. These people go every month, twice a month, most times, to meet with the students and work with them to make sure that they are getting the training that they need. Thank you for your service. And now we'll present the information. The certificates. Can you take that with you? shake hands that way and get their thing. Okay. All right, so our seniors, we have graduating seniors, and we'll start with Margaret Gail Barron. She is a 12th grader at Newnan High School. Come on up. And is she here? She's not here? Okay. And will be going to the University of Georgia or University of Mississippi Ole Miss to major in interior design. Macy Bohannon. She's a 12th grader at Newnan. Will be going to the University of Georgia, majoring in public relations. She was the 25-26 secretary. Liam Mulford, 12th grader from Newnan High. He's going to Auburn University, majoring in professional sports.
Understand where you are with that.
Naomi Kraft, 12th grader at Trinity. She will be going to LaGrange College, majoring in fine arts. Jordan Guy, 12th grader, East Coweta High School. She will be attending Spelman College, majoring in health sciences with a pre-med track. She was the 25-26 East Coweta rep and a Christmas parade judge. Davis Markham, 12th grader Newnan. He will be going to Georgia Tech, majoring in business administration, 25-26 parliamentarian. Lila McDowell, 12th grader, Newnan High. She will be attending University of Georgia, majoring in biology with a pre-med track. She was the 25-26 historian and a Christmas parade judge.
Good luck.
You'll get to say that a few more times. Francesca Parker, 12th grader, Newnan. She will be attending Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, majoring in Southern Studies and was a Christmas parade judge this year. Rhea Patel, 12th grade, Newnan High, Georgia Tech, majoring in business with a pre-med track and was a Christmas parade judge. Olivia Rodriguez, 12th grader, East Coweta. She will be attending the University of Georgia, majoring in film studies. She was the 2025-26 chair and the 24-25 East Coweta rep.
Go dogs.
You guys go dogs. Corinne Terrell, 12th grader, Newnan High. She will be attending Georgia Tech, majoring in business administration, and she was a 25-26 Christmas parade judge.
And a fantastic babysitter.
Brayden Williamson, 12th grade, Newnan, will also be attending Georgia Tech, majoring in business. 24-25 Newnan rep. Sarah Helen Zachary, 12th grade, Northgate. She'll be attending Georgia College and State University, majoring in mass communications, and was the 25-26 vice chair. And that concludes our senior list.
All right, thank you all for being here and for all of the work you've done over your course of time on the Newnan Youth Council. With that, we move into our appointment for the Christmas Commission.
Next agenda, and
All
so is the next one.
All right. So with that, we move to, we have an appointment for NURA, the Urban Redevelopment Agency.
I'd like to reappoint Frank Farmer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. We also have an appointment to the Downtown Development Authority.
I would like to appoint Mr. Ryan Brooks.
Second.
Hearing second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. With that, we move into reports on operations by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just a quick update on the item that Councilman Carrico asked about. Mr. Sears and I have been performing research. I've been reaching out to other city managers, city attorneys, reviewing other charters, reviewing our particular charter. We're basically done with the information gathering now. Got to start putting it together in a report form. Don't know I'll have it ready for the next council meeting, but I think we could probably certainly target for the following one.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
All right. Hearing nothing further, reports and communications from the mayor. Two quick updates. First, we have our comprehensive plan survey that we are closing out this Friday. If you have not filled it out, please fill it out. Tell all your friends to fill it out, your coworkers, your relatives. We want as much engagement on that as possible to guide us as we're putting together this comprehensive plan. So very important that we get as much engagement as possible. Also wanted to note that today was the first day of early voting for the primary and some general elections in Georgia. So I would encourage all of our voters to get out and do their civic duty. And that's all from me. With that, we move into new business, our public hearing, item G, for consideration of demolition application for the structure at 153 Temple Avenue.
Good evening. Good to see everybody again. Yeah, we've received an application for the structure at 153 Temple Avenue. This is a small parcel in conjunction with the development out somehow during the rezoning and approval of this project. This structure got overlooked. So it has no purpose for the development, it has no value for the project. They just need to get it out of the way.
All right, with that, we move into discussion from council. Any discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the demolition application for the structure 153 Temple Avenue?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move into consideration of the contract award for full depth reclamation and paving, LRA 2025.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I bring before you a consideration for a contract award for the Newnan project, LRA 2025. This essentially would be the full depth reclamation of the roads around Newnan High School, Cougar Way, Sewell Road, all the way to Greenville Street and Armory Road. We received 8 separate bids. MHB Paving was the low bid, and they were responsive to the invitation to bid, and therefore I would recommend them. Their contract base contract price is $1,269,425.58. This project, the funding from GDOT on this is $607,912.90, and there is no match requirement. It's straight up for them. We had estimated the project at a little over $1.3 million internally. So my recommendation is for MHB paving.
All right. With that, we move into discussion from council. Any discussion?
I just have one. Is there an estimated time of start time and completion?
Yes, sir. I probably should have talked about that. This is in conjunction with the Link project. I alluded to that in the agenda item.
Right.
And the scope is to be substantially completed prior to the start of school, which I believe is August 13th. That's our target date. And I did have a conversation with them. They know they're working with a number of other construction firms, and they're going to coordinate efforts. And they have assured me that they can accomplish that.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the contract award for full depth reclamation and paving, LRA 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Move into item I, consideration of the resolution to grant a waiver to the City of Newnan Leisure Services Department on behalf of the Newnan Cultural Arts Commission to allow for possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages at the Newnan Center Amphitheater during 2026 Jazz in the Park Concert Series. You have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. That was a lengthy one, I know. Sorry about that. So I'm here once again to ask on behalf of the Newnan Cultural Arts Commission, essentially allowing for brown bag policy at that event. It's something that we did last year with the movement of the event out to the Newnan Center due to the construction of Greenville Street Park. Once again, Greenville Street Park is currently under renovation, but we saw huge success with the event at the Newnan Center. We had on average about 1,000 in attendance, all three parts of the series. So I think we've got a great lineup this year with the Cultural Arts Commission, and anyways, that's why I bring that to you today.
Great. With that, we move into discussion from council. Any discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion, because it's so long, to
Second.
accept as written? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I am in favor. Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously.
Thank
Item J, NERA request to expand project boundaries and eligible activities for the Murray Street Workforce Housing Project and contingency use of ARPA funds. Sir, the floor is yours.
Mayor, Council, my name is Gerald Walton. I'm the chairman of the NERA Board. And on behalf of the board, I'm here to request to expand the project boundaries and eligible activities for the Murray Street Housing Project and the contingency use of the ARPA funds.
All right. With that, is there any discussion from council?
Can you, for the record, just say where you all want to expand to and what activities you want to do?
Chalk level, you know, if we can find lots to buy. On the other side of town, which is,
Rocky Hill?
Rocky Hill.
Uh-huh.
Those two areas.
Okay.
And to finish the second part of her question, what kind of, the scope of projects?
Yeah, the scope of work, but I mean, well, not necessarily the scope of work, but the type of activities that you like to do.
Let's see.
Andrew is standing right next to you to help you.
Like I was just saying, we want to try to buy some lots. Maybe approve. Let me see. Yeah. I don't want to read it word for word. Yeah, go ahead.
So essentially, we'd be looking at expanding the expanding to all the NERA boundaries with a primary focus on activities that we already have in progress for Chalk Level, Rocky Hill, and then that also opens the door for Westgate to
That's gonna be my next
move some of
question.
that focus to the west side of town to at least prepare ourselves. There are opportunities to utilize this to, one, expedite some of the HUD-funded programs that we have at Chalk Level, but then we also have opportunities where DCA has approached us about additional NSP resources that have recently come available to where the west side of town will be the primary focus for that, because that is the only portion of our NERA redevelopment area that actually counts at this point.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a
And
question. I have a question then, kind of a follow-on. Would it be, since we already have some lots, I think, in the city that we've kind of set aside, for this activity, are there any of them that would benefit from maybe using this to clean them up so that they are more build-ready, kind of shovel-ready, so that we're not expanding so much that we just have too much on the plate?
Yeah, that's what we want to use some of this money for.
Okay.
To do that type of work.
Okay.
So, Councilman, for example, on the west side of town, if you were to take in the Rocky Hill area, the Tuxedo Avenue, Dominic streets, those are ideal locations where there's multiple city parcels that are currently owned, that if council were to deem those eligible for NERA projects, that those could be cleaned up, prepared, made site-ready, essentially. Title clearance is one of those things as well, because we know that a lot of those properties are probably tax lien properties, so we can use those funds to have those sites ready for development when the time comes.
And clean up the title and all that stuff. Okay, great. Thank you.
And just, if I may, just because I'm still learning all the acronyms, what does NSP the NSP resources from DCA?
NSP is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program that came about after the 2008 housing crisis, and it was a response to foreclosed homes that has kind of expanded into a new construction program.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, we've had 2 rounds of NSP at this point.
Any further discussion?
Mayor Shepherd, I've got a question.
Just, yeah, I have one question.
Actually, Councilman Thomason first.
Go ahead.
You've got 3 recommendations on here. You've talked, I believe, about one of them, which is expand the boundary. But where are the other 2? Are we approving all 3 or just pick one of these? Is that the way?
All 3.
I'll pick all 3. Okay. Gotcha.
And Councilman Guillaume?
Yeah, I just want to, I know what your price range was on Murray Street. Are you guys trying to stay in that sweet spot of like 250, 260, 270? Is that your target range? Or are you looking to expand on that or below that, or obviously?
So ideally, the price range would stay about the same. Now, we have seen after Murray Street was completed, the Housing Authority stated that there's a need for 3-bedroom homes. So there probably will be an increase to the price point.
Right.
But we are still going to be looking to sell those for the development costs only or the appraisal, whichever is the lesser value of the 2. But yes, you're right. Murray Street has not really exceeded beyond 267 as a price point.
So when you guys do these things, you're obviously, by stating that the fact that you want 3 bedrooms and the demand is, you're going to stay with the demand, because really you're looking at should this particular person who qualifies, wants to resell, 3 bedrooms is a go-to product, right?
Yeah, we're gonna aim to stick with the demand. Obviously, we are bound by the income requirements.
Right.
So there will be some constraints on how far we can take that.
Sure.
Because we want to ensure that someone that's at 120% of the area median income can afford the mortgage on a home at that price.
Okay.
So there will be some other considerations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the resolution or the request as
So
written?
moved.
Second.
Hearing motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank y'all so very much.
Thank you. All right, with that, we move into unfinished business. Item K, we have a public hearing for the annexation request for Annex 2025-02, request to annex and rezone 122.64 acres located off Greentop Road from County RC to PDR. Applicant is NCTI LLC, as represented by Chuck Connerly, attorney at law, for the purpose of developing 235 single-family homes. Before we get into the presentation, one quick question. Is Mr. Ziffel here, Bob Ziffel? Ziffel. Just to clarify, would you like to speak in favor of it or against? Okay, perfect, thank you. So with that, we have 3 people who are looking to speak against. Obviously, the presenter is 4. We will have 12 minutes per side to speak on those issues. Since we have 3, it'll be 4 minutes for each of the against, and 12 for the presenter. If the presenter would please reserve any time you want to keep for rebuttal during your presentation so that we can maintain the equality of sides. With that, the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So we're dealing here with the second phase of Ever Hour subdivision, which is what we discussed at the workshop back on the 14th, excuse me. So this is the first phase here, and this is where it would connect in. This would be the second phase. It's going to be 235 single-family detached fee simple homes. The minimum lot size would be 8,200 square feet with a minimum floor area of 1,602 square feet. They're proposing 3 pods, ranch pods, which would have 28 homes with an average square footage of 1,800 square feet, a traditional pod, 160 homes, which will be an average square footage of 2,500 square feet, and an estate pod, which would be 47 homes with an average square footage of 3,000 square feet. And this is the homes, a little bit about the homes and what they're looking to do. And there's additional information in the packet which elaborates on these. So sales prices would range from $460,000 to $690,000, with the average being $575,000. Rental percentage would be capped at 10%. In terms of amenities, a pool and cabana are provided in phase 1. If that was annexed as a second phase, And then they're also showing additional amenities which would be in the community. The first one would be an entrance, which would be the pocket part at the entrance to the subdivision there for the second phase. You would also have walking trails, which would be in the middle, and then a gathering space, which would be on the southern portion of it. And this is gonna be your gathering. This is some ideas for what they had, and all that, again, is in your packet. We discussed the background of this at the work session in 2015. This came before council, but then the request was withdrawn. In 2023, phase one was approved, and then this came to 2025. We discussed the arbitration and all that in the workshop as well. As far as key analysis, the land use, this property is currently zoned RC in the county, which would permit 76 units at a density of 0.625 units per acre. However, the county has withdrawn their objection at the proposed 235 units or 1.9 units per acre with the conditions that are included in the agreement. And again, those are included in your packet. The property was not considered in the city's current comprehensive plan, but is identified as priority development area for future land use by the county, and that would allow it to 4 units per acre. The requested zoning, as I said, is PDR, is consistent with the 2 adjacent developments in the city. That would be Calumet and Everhow Phase 1, but is denser than the neighboring county zonings. As far as traffic and access, a traffic study was conducted for both phases as part of the DRI process. The review recommended system improvements, and those are listed in the notice of decision, which is also in your paperwork. The county will be given $6,950 per lot to assist in the design, permitting, and construction of intersection improvements to 1 Hal Jones Road, Green Top Road at US 29, 2 Green Top Road and Herring Road, and 3 Herring Road at Bledsoe Road. City engineer has also provided comments further addressing transportation improvements that would have to be met as well. As far as impacts on public service, the police anticipated 576 additional calls with 6 motor vehicle accidents, 34 traffic stops, and that's all within a 2-year period with an estimated added cost of $22,500. The fire said it would be serviceable, but increased population will strain response time, equipment, and manpower. Schools weighed in. Northside Elementary School would be 77% capacity, Madras Middle School 88% capacity, Newnan High School 85% capacity. And they also stated ongoing capacity concerns, especially due to that area's high density. Utilities, water and sewer said capacity was sufficient. And if this annexation did occur, as far as service provision of the subdivision would be under a single jurisdiction. As far as economic impact, the projected annual expenditures is $384,521. Projected annual revenues is $220,448. Now it's going to be a little lower than what you're used to because in the past we had property taxes that figured in as well, and now we have lost. And then the upfront revenues, which would be your impact fees, permitting, so forth, $695,790. As far as the evaluation against the zoning standards, we felt they met 5 of the 8 standards. The standards met were the proposed use is suitable with surrounding development, the compatibility with comprehensive plan for counties, the consistent with the PDR district intent, it's supported by emerging conditions, being that phase 1 is there, and reasonable balance of public welfare and property rights. Standards not met were adverse impact in terms of traffic, but mitigation would be required, the property could be developed as currently zoned, and the project would have significant impacts on public services. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 10th, 2026, and voted unanimously 6-0 with 1 abstention to recommend denial of the annexation and rezoning request. Staff has recommended conditions which are in your packet, and I'll read those out. They would be the project will be consistent with the concept plan density, project data, renderings, and amenities provided as part of the application. 2, the City of Newnan will not issue a permit for land disturbing activity till such time as Coweta County has reviewed and approved the plans for transportation purposes. 3, the developer will be required to meet all conditions specified in the DRI notice of decision dated October 27, 2025, and all conditions are recommended by the Director of Engineering as listed in the letter of December 15, 2025, or as otherwise agreed to by the parties, including the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, except for the roadway improvement conditions to grant a notice of decision set forth in Attachment C, Section 2 of the notice of the decision, which are beyond the jurisdiction of the city. And those are basically ones at Amlajack and also up at 154, which they wouldn't be responsible for. The project will be developed in accordance with the conditions specified in the arbitration agreement between the City of Newnan, Coweta County, and NCTI LLC, and in accordance with all proffered conditions as outlined in this report, including the deletion of condition number 6, which we discussed last time, which was the connectivity between phase 1 and 2, which is already being addressed in that first phase of the project. And then they also added a new condition, which would be number 20. The developer has agreed not to submit a land disturbance permit application for phase 2 until November 1st of 2027. And that's a report of the Planning Commission.
Thank you so much. And with that, we open the floor for the public hearing. If the applicant would come forward. And if you could, for the sake of our timekeeper, let us know how much time you would like to reserve, if you know.
I think the presentation will be about 8 minutes, so we'll shoot for 4 minutes for a rebuttal.
Great, thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor Shepherd, members of the City Council. It's good to see everyone again. As you may recall from the work session, I'm Chuck Connerly, and I represent the Pulte Group, the developer, as well as the property owner and the applicant, NCTI LLC. My business address is 402 Newnan Street in Carrollton. Also here with me tonight on behalf of Pulte is Rick Martin. At the work session, we went through what I would consider to be kind of the basics of our application. And during our presentation, there were several questions asked by the council, and I thought that our time tonight might best be spent providing a little additional information in response to some of those questions. One of the questions asked of us at the work session was, why annex into the city? Why not just do this project in Coweta County? Of course, the most obvious answer is that this is phase 2 of an existing development, with phase 1 having already been annexed into the city. And as I mentioned in my remarks at the work session, we really want this whole development to have a larger sense of community and continuity to it. And we feel like having all of the development in the city versus having half in the city and half in the county promotes that sense of community and continuity. We also feel like having it in the city, of course, helps us with marketing the project. But it really goes deeper than that. We've been working with the city for years on this project, and it has truly been a collaborative partnership. And candidly, the city wanted this project, and among other things, wanted to provide utilities to serve this project. There's a 3-party agreement, a development agreement, between the city and the Coweta County Water and Sewer Authority and us, whereby at the city's request, we paid the Coweta County Water and Sewer Authority more than $1 million so that Newnan Utilities could service this project. We also secured not 1, but 2 necessary easements, including one from CSX. And if you've ever worked with the railroad, it's not the easiest entity in the world to work with, for the outfall. And of course, more recently, we're party to a 3-party development agreement between the city and the county, specifically as it relates to the development of phase 2, which includes another $1.7 million that we are contributing towards transportation improvements for the project, which is, of course, in addition to the first agreement between the 3 parties as it relates to the development of phase 1. I say all that to say that what we're proposing is a product of a several years long partnership with the city. And that brings me really to a larger point about the project generally. Pulte is the 3rd largest home builder in the country, and it has its headquarters in Atlanta. And as you can imagine, they do extensive marketing research before they decide to develop a project in a particular place. Simply put, Coweta County has a shortage of single-family housing. That's one of the primary reasons that Pulte is here. And it's not just here. There's a new report from the White House that suggests, as a nation, we are 10 million houses short. Now, to put that in perspective, Pulte, as the 3rd largest home builder in the country, builds 30,000 homes per year. That's just 0.3% of what the new White House report says are needed in this country. And frankly, we're unlikely to catch up in my lifetime. As for Coweta County, the Atlanta Regional Commission predicts that there will be 75,000 new residents in the county by 2050. That's not very far into the future. Housing is an urgent and critical challenge for this and many other communities. Another question that came up at the work session related to rentals. As we discussed at the work session, we agreed to a 10% rental cap. Councilman Carrico asked if we would be willing to lower that to, say, 20 units. We did not offer a response at the time, but we promised that we would offer a response tonight. We would like to keep the rental cap at 10%, but we would agree to add a hardship provision so it's for owners only and it would preclude investor renters. And what we mean by that and what we're envisioning is a scenario where someone buys into the community and then for whatever reason, job or otherwise, they need to relocate. This would allow that owner to rent their house for some period of time, again, everything capped by 10%, until they had an opportunity to sell it. It would eliminate institutional investors, which we would agree to prohibit anyway. Other considerations, we have other projects in Coweta County. We expect to be a member of this community for decades, and we want to be a good community development partner. As Tracy mentioned, we recently proposed another condition whereby we would agree not to submit a land disturbance permit application until November of 2027. The idea being it would add more time for the city to be able to absorb a number of homes being done in phase one and hopefully not burden infrastructure as much all at the same time. We have a letter of support from the property owner for the north, which I think has been provided to you. I can represent that we have support from our neighbor to the west. I have Jeff Koski with me also tonight, who is the president of KB Advisory Group. They performed a fiscal impact study for this project. I'm sure Jeff would be happy to answer questions as it relates to that. Jim Summerbell is also here with us again tonight. Recall from the work session that Mr. Summerbell was the principal author of the county's comprehensive plan. You have a letter from Mr. Summerbell in support of the project as part of your packet. And again, I don't know if I've hit the 8-minute mark or not, but if not, I will be happy to answer any questions that you have and would reserve that 4 minutes for rebuttal.
Thanks so much for that. And with that, we actually have two looking to speak against Mr. Banta. Is Mr. Banta here? Right. So if we
Mr. Mayor, City Council.
thanks, sir. And grant
My
him
name is
6
Frank
minutes.
Bantha. I've been a resident of Heritage Hills for over 40 years. My property abuts up to what I'll refer to as the farm. I'm sorry, my memory's gone, but we've maintained that property for 40 years with the permission of the original owner. My concern is that Greentop Road is less than a mile long between Herring Road and Highway 29. To put that in real terms, that's less than 300 motor vehicles bumper to bumper from one end of Greentop to the other. The average single-family home in America has 2 automobiles. So now we're talking about 700, 800. If we have a teenage driver, there'd be 3, can be 3 vehicles. So we're talking about gridlock. Now, for those of us who live in Heritage Hills, we know that the traffic on Greentop has multiplied tremendously. There's not a single home begun in every hour. So I don't understand why it's so important to annex another 200 acres or 122 acres when no homes have even been started. The congestion is palpable. It's almost impossible to get out of Heritage Hills during morning rush hour, which starts about 6 a.m., lunchtime, afternoon, 3 o'clock when schools are out and first shifts end, and then, of course, the evening rush hour. It's very difficult to get out, so those of us who have the option know we can't get out of our homes at that time. All I see is additional congestion, and I would ask that this annexation not be approved at this time. I heard tonight that he said not going to start anything until 2027, but that doesn't give me a great deal of confidence.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the opportunity to express my opinions.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Ziefel?
My name is Bob Ziefel. I've been a resident here 53 years. The Greentop saga has lasted nearly a decade. It involves the effort to get 2 adjacent properties approved for single-family residential development that is significantly higher in density than allowed under the rural conservation zoning. During this time, there have been numerous reviews and public hearings by the County Planning and Rezoning Board, by County Commission, by City Planning Committee, and by the City Council. At every one of those events, there has been overwhelming public opposition, not just from the immediate Greentop area residents, but from other areas in the county and the city. And in all of those reviews and public hearings, there's not been a single citizen, not one, who has stood in support of this higher density development. Every one of those events has resulted in a vote to reject either the rezoning request and or the higher density development plan and or the request for annexation. In fact, your own city planning committee has twice voted unanimously to recommend rejection of these plans. Finally, the owner of the 160-acre property resorted to lengthy legal action and ultimately got an arbitration decision that accomplished the desired annexation and the higher density residential development of 300 homes. Now comes the owner of the adjacent 120 acres property requesting annexation and approval of the higher density development of 235 additional homes, total 535 homes. Once again, there's objections. Why? Well, contrary to the claims by the owners, our opposition has nothing to do with not in my backyardism. Never in any of the numerous previous hearings, and I've been at every one of them, has there ever been any such expression. In fact, it has been repeatedly stated that our opposition to development of these properties has nothing to do with backyard. It has to do with if the proposal had been for developing this property under the existing zoning, there would never have been an objection raised. The objection is because of the numerous negative consequences and detrimental impacts that the proposed higher density development is going to have. These are the primary factors upon which those objections rest. The Greentop Road properties are not connected to the city in any means, by any means. Not by roadway, street, bridge, walkway, or even a footpath. The annexation will simply expand a city island out in the county. The only access to and from the city is by 3 or 4 miles travel through Coweta County, increasing first responder and emergency services response times. Greentop Road is already, as Frank mentioned, a very heavily traveled 2-lane road that is only 9/10 of a mile long. It terminates on 29 and on Heron Road, which is also an extremely heavily traveled road. Together, Greentop, US 29 North, and Heron Road form the primary travel corridor between all of the residential developments in the immediate area of 29 North. Hal Jones, Happy Valley Circle, Buddy West, Lake Redwine, Tommy Lee Cook, Edgeworth, Cedar Creek Roads, and the commercial centers around Bullsboro and I-85. This is the area that is near perpetual gridlock every day, every peak hour. Even though Greentop is 9/10 of a mile long, the two properties combined have only approximately 4/10 of a mile of road frontage. That's 4/10 of a mile in which to accommodate all of the entrance and exits for 535 homes that our development will have if this annexation is approved. Using the same traffic study statistics and ratios as quoted in an earlier article in the Newnan Times-Herald, this is going to produce a total of almost 6,000 additional trips, 3,000 in the morning and 3,000 in the afternoon. It's going to exacerbate an already significant traffic congestion problem for the entire Greentop US 29 Heron Road corridor. These are the main concerns. There are others, time won't let us get into them, but they represent much of what caused one of the city planning committee members to state at their recent public hearing about this annexation and development plan that he had really tried hard to find a reason to vote in favor of it. That he struggled to understand why it was needed, to see what and who would possibly benefit from it, and he could not. And that's the problem. The only beneficiary of this annexation and development plan is the property owner and the developer. The many problems it will create will be for the rest of us to deal with and to ultimately try to fix for a long time to come. I ask you to please not to vote or to vote not in favor of this continued deterioration and destruction of the rural character of and quality of life of Newnan, Coweta. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, any rebuttal?
I don't have a lot to add unless there are questions from the council. I do just quickly want to address the traffic issue. We discussed this at length at the work session, but as we mentioned, you know, the traffic issue has been studied and not studied by us. I mean, studied by people on behalf of the government whose job it is to study these things. And they have made a recommendation in terms of how to deal with the traffic. Again, that's not our proposals. Those were recommendations that were made as part of the DRI process. What we've been asked to do as the developer is to contribute money towards that project, and we have to the tune, or we have agreed to do it to the tune of $1.7 million. So we feel like, from our standpoint, we've made a good faith effort to help deal with the traffic issue because we're willing to contribute based on the recommendations of others. And just a quick note on, again, on the rural character of this area of the county. You know, again, we discussed this at length at the work session, but this is, even under the county's comprehensive plan, this is an area that's designated for development of this density, again, because the idea is to preserve more rural areas in the outskirts of the county and to concentrate development near cities where you want to have development. So again, unless there's any questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Councilman?
I'll yield if somebody else.
No,
has a
it's yours.
All right, well, I'm glad you brought that up about concerning, because I've really gone through this quite extensively and recapped it again in my mind today. And I too had sat in on a number of those meetings with Greentop Road and all the hearings that were taking place, so I kind of have a different take on some of the statements that were made. I want to, for you to address, there's a touch point it's not an island that is created. It is attached to the city at what point?
It's
Or my misunderstanding, my misunderstanding.
Rick, you want to address
Good evening, Mayor Shepherd and members of the City Council. There are 2 points. One at the railroad where the contiguous property on the other side of the railroad is city property. And then obviously the contiguous property that we just annexed is
Yeah.
also.
And that was made really clear in one of the hearings, I believe, in the arbitration hearing several years ago with Green Top, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Secondly was that the county, when they went in and did all the sewage, how many taps did they put in?
There's a long history to that answer. I'll try to be as brief as I can. The original agreement with Coweta Water and Sewer was to extend an outfall that would service areas north of Green Top Road and would traverse the property that was in Phase 1. That agreement was agreed upon by 4 property owners, and they granted them, as I recall, is either 355 or 360 taps. When we got into the zoning portion of that acquisition, we actually assisted the county in drafting that zoning ordinance. And then when we got into the vote, it was denied, which led us to the annexation path. And subsequently to that, we entered into an agreement with Coweta Water and Sewer through the county to compensate them in a fashion that they were desirous in order to have a 3-party agreement with the city to grant us the ability to give the utility, both water and sewer, to Newnan Utilities.
Yeah, the reason I posed the question is because if I recall correctly, that their intention was to develop that. And even in their own, let's see which point it is here.
It was in fact a recital in one of the documents that you reviewed.
It's on page 40, where I'm reading from, where the county has properties are outside the city limits and therefore are not considered the city's in the comprehensive plan. We understand that it's not part of our planning, but it does fit because in a couple other areas it says it does fit with the comprehensive plan. But the county's comprehensive plan shows that this area is you guys mentioned this last time, but I'm going to reiterate it, a priority development character on its current future land use, which means it's going to be developed with a higher density. Would that be safe to say?
That's correct. That was our understanding as well.
And also, I would like to address the traffic issue. And I speak for this because I argued against one of the developments that was going in on Poplar Road about traffic, and I did an extensive study talking about the length of cars and everything else. The truth of the matter is I found out in that arbitration that per the lawyers that you cannot neither approve nor deny based upon the sole purpose of traffic alone. Is that be correct legally?
I'm not a lawyer, but that's my understanding. Yeah.
That's well, I've talked to a couple of attorneys. I just want to make sure that I'm stating that correctly.
And I would defer to your well-versed and well-experienced city attorney.
Mr. Sears? I mean, in that hearing, it was argued about traffic.
Case law that says that.
Okay. That's all that I have for now. I just wanted to address nowhere in the comments section when the county or the planning commission did I find absolutely 0 comments from any of the commissioners. I find the comments of the people who are in opposition, but I think, so I just want to make that clear. That wasn't, somebody said they wanted to, looking for a way to approve it, but I don't see it in the notes here. That's why I just want to address that. That's all I have at the moment. Oh. Everybody else want to go? I just want to we already have that development, and how important is it for for the continuity or the cohesion of that development, for you guys to have phase two as part of the city, and the effect on the existing houses that would be built in phase one. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
the concept that, if you notice on the site plan, the concept actually breaks the phase two property into two segments. One is accessed on the northwest side of phase one, and the other is accessed in two places on the southwest. The idea behind that design was purposeful, and it was to manage the traffic ingress and egress through the primary areas that were designed in phase one, while there's a primary access on phase two as well. But you can't access the southern part of of phase two with the western access. You can only go, you can come in and then go east, but you can't go south. And the idea was to break the project into, there's a concept that Pulte's adopted years ago, and they referred to it as family-centric. And the idea is that we're building three distinctly different products in this community, a 40-foot and a 48-foot product, where folks can enter the project when they're starting families and so forth and have children, grow their family and resources as they live there, and then later in life move from that lifestyle into a active adult lifestyle, which is the ranch product, and not leave the neighborhood. There's many places where Pulte's done this around the country. It's been a very successful model. So that was the whole idea behind the way the development was laid out and planned.
So am I understanding correctly that you believe this could be developed as put forward, but whether we annex this or not, this can be done within the county boundaries?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So what I'm reading, or what I'm hearing and what I'm reading here, is that this would be in keeping with the county's plan. And so if this is in line with the county's plan, why would we need to annex this in?
Well, we went through a significant effort on two fronts in order to accommodate the city. It was just the path that was prescribed when we started this. There's certainly nothing that would preclude us if denial were to be found, then there would be nothing to prohibit us to go back to the county under the same agreement that we have and proffer the exact same transportation improvements and build the project in the county. Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, the question is,
there's nothing that would preclude us from doing that, but obviously, if we did that, Newnan Utilities wouldn't benefit from the utility, which is kind of how we got here. You know, Newnan Utilities always wanted the utility for water and sewer, and so we were charged with the task of figuring out how to make that happen, and annexation was the obvious answer.
And one other question: if I wanted to get to this development from here without going through the county, how would I do so?
Well, you can come around where 29 intersects 34 at that intersection. From recollection, I can't remember how you'd come in from the north, but from right where the interstate, I forgot the name of the road that goes directly north to Greentop Road from State Route 34 that's east and south of here. I'd have to refer to my map, I'm afraid. I don't remember that, but there's, and then, of course, the county has a significant plan for what I think they refer to as the Madras Connector, which is a network of roads that are east of this project that are going to, I think in their vision, relieve some of the stress on State Route 34 and 29.
Can anybody from staff clarify whether There's where the entry points are from the city, how this connects to the city? Or
So essentially, you would have to go on county roads in order to access city limits if you were coming in and out. So.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
I'd like to make a point.
Yes.
Maybe this will help us. We do have precedent set, quite frankly, with this in District 1 where Councilman Dustin and I represent. When you park, there's a Park Road, I believe it's Park Road, when that's annexed into the city, and there was another development annexed into the city, and the only way the residents of those particular developments can get to their homes is to drive on county roads. Right. So to say that going on county roads to get to the homes that are in Newnan it's existing already in various parts of the city.
Just want to make sure I was clear on the map there.
And if I could just point out, it's kind of a very minor thing, but the phase 1 is already in the city, so technically there's already there's three ways to get into the city via the connecting roads from phase 2 to phase 1. I mean, technically you're going into the city by being in section 1 already.
Right, but again, the question was whether you can get there from here without crossing county roads, and it sounds like you can't. All right, any further questions for the public hearing?
If I could, if you could just expound a little bit on that 20% rental rate and kind of flesh that in a little bit for me.
Yeah, the idea is to not burden not just the homeowners, but the homeowners association with an administrative task. And the 10%, if agreed upon, would be additionally conditioned inside the HOA documents to include a provision that would not allow for institutional investors, and that would be further defined in those documents. So if somebody were faced with a hardship, their job relocates to another city, only then and only then would that hardship provision be permitted to rent. And the reason for that is folks wouldn't, not everybody, but there would be folks that wouldn't buy a home if it had a rental restriction that wouldn't allow them to rent during the relocation process. But that would be the documentation that we would intend inside the HOA docs. And that would be administered by the homeowners association. Did that answer your question?
Well, I just want to kind of, for clarification, how would you keep somebody from, say, buying the first 10 lots, first 10 homes, and saying, I'm just an individual purchaser, and not being an institutional investor, and then it locks anybody else out from buying and renting? Because it sounds like that emergency exception would be in addition to the 10%.
Yeah, I don't think we would have an objection to drafting language that would stipulate to that it wouldn't be an investor. We could define institutional investor as any individual or group that would be purchasing multiple homes in the community, and then restrict that rental arrangement.
And I just speak from personal experience. We have a institutional investor that bought one of the houses in our neighborhood, and it's just not kept up. I mean, it's just one that in my immediate area. And so it's, it only takes one. It doesn't take all 20 to create a eyesore, if you will.
One of the things that we do, I think we do a really good job at, we've got communities literally in 43 major markets across the country. We do a really good job with the terms. I live in a Pulte community, actually, at Sun City. I should have said that. 304 T. Rose Court, Griffin, Georgia. I live in Sun City in Griffin. And the stipulations for maintenance and the provisions and remedies for satisfying those deferred maintenance items are addressed in the HOA docs pretty specifically.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
Further questions? Is there any objection to closing the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Do we have a motion to accept the Planning Commission report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, carries unanimously. We move into consideration of the ordinance to annex the subject properties and open for discussion among council.
I'll make that motion for annexation.
Discussion.
Yeah, until discussion has been exhausted.
Oh,
Out of order,
sorry.
but,
Where did I step off?
oh, yeah, no, I'm just asking if there's any discussion, but then we can get to the motion. Is there any discussion on the ordinance?
I mean, we've heard from your questions and can kind of ascertain where you're headed with it. I will say that I don't feel obligated at all to annex this property. I don't think that it's in the best interest of the city at this point. And that is where I stand on this.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further discussion?
If I could just make a comment kind of to
Disagree.
that, I mean, we're already taking city services out there. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to weigh things out, and I appreciate the public's comments regarding this project. We're already taking city services out there as needed. So it's not really that much of a strain to, other than just more numbers of actual homes for emergency services and other services. The other thing is with the county's last several years kind of, for lack of a better term, just their animosity towards the cities, their sales tax and the lost and SPOS negotiations, if they develop this in the county, then the county's going to use that just as further numbers to use against the cities to decrease the percentages of city sales tax revenue. So that's something also to consider, is that if you're going to develop in the city or in the county, say the same exact project, the county is going to use that potentially as a numbers, in a numbers game against us.
I'd also like to comment, although we're not obligated, of course, to annex anything, which we've learned most recently. I think I approach this as a value added to the community as a whole, where we're falling short, and also going into, more importantly, the mixed signals that we're sending into the market as a whole as we move forward with the comprehensive plan, et cetera. We don't want this, we want this, we say we need this, but then we vote it down. I think this is a value-added property or value-added development. Just goes hand in hand, and I agree with Councilman Critco, that goes hand in hand with Phase 1, and it just seems to me it's just, Phase 2 is just a fit. And so I understand the disagreements, but I strongly support the project.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? I would like to note, and Councilman Critco, your point is well taken about the lost calculation. My only concern with that is I'm not sure what the limiting principle is. That means any development in the county would change that off, and any development that we don't do would kind of trade that off. So I'm not sure what the limiting principle would be on that. And so again, your point is well taken, but to that extent, I'm not sure of that. And
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, if you talk to the city manager or something like that, it kind of becomes a rooftop issue, just counting.
Oh, yeah.
Just sheer lots.
Yeah, no, understood. And the other point into the market, I think one thing that we've discussed with some regularity in the last few months is connectivity, and where are we joining the city? What is part of the city? How can things be integrated into the city? So I think that is a worthwhile consideration to as we go forward with the comprehensive plan, to consider, how are we connecting various new parts of the city to the existing city? That's the only point I would raise to Mr. Guillaume's point.
I would agree with some of what you're saying, but I think we're getting to the point where it is a matter of growth. And if you want to look at the point of contact, quite frankly, District 1 would not exist because we have the Great Divide of I-85. So we've set kind of some precedents as to already to annex properties in, and as we're going to grow, we're going to face these annexations, and even as we've learned, if we wanted to, you could annex an island and then start annexing to it. So there's multiple different ways to grow the city. I just want us to be very careful as to the great pause or no more growth based upon the criteria and the measurement in which we take and the weight value that we've learned on these standards. So that's all I'm pointing out. I still think it's a value added, and regardless of how you get there, you're going to get on roads, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilman.
One more thing. I will say that I hear you all saying, hey, this is, or at least this is what I'm hearing you say, is that this is a signal that we don't want to grow. I think that rejection of this particular annexation should not be a signal to the market on what we're going to do in the future. As a matter of fact, we have a wonderful opportunity right now with the comprehensive plan to talk about how we want to grow and where we want to grow and what product we're looking for and what mix we're looking for. So, as I said, at this time, we're not obligated to do it, and I'm not in favor of it. That's just me. But we'll get the vote in a minute.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Councilman Gill, would you like to make your motion?
So I need to make the motion for annexation and rezoning, correct?
Just the annexation. Just the annexation.
So I'll make the motion for annexation.
Is there a second?
Second.
With that, all in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
You want to do the raise hands?
Just in case. I
think that'd be a great idea, yeah.
Let's do it.
So I'm for.
And all opposed by like sign?
Aye.
Aye. With that, the motion fails. And with that, item 4 is a moot point. City Attorney, if there's anything that I'm missing there, but item 4 is a moot point? Thank you. All right, with that, we move into item L, consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 3, Alcoholic Beverages, Article 2, Licensing Procedures.
Yeah, Mr. Council, Mr. Mayor, let him get out for a second.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. This body had previously had a discussion about amending the licensing section, Article 2 of the alcohol ordinance, to remove the council approval of the licenses. While it seemed like a really simple amendment, it ended up affecting several sections within the document. So we now have it for you for your consideration. So instead of just simply amending this paragraph, we've actually are recommending that the entire section be deleted in its entirety and readopted with a version in front of you, even though the only thing we're really doing is actually making it an administrative approval, but we did put in an appeal process in case the applicant is denied, and they have the appeal process in front of this body. So thank you for your consideration.
You all right? With that, we move into discussion of council. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, if there's no objection, do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance as written? And do we have a second?
Second.
With that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. All right, excuse me. With that, we move into consideration of item M, consideration of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Purchasing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, good evening. If you'll remember at our last meeting in March, City Manager Phillips brought forth some changes to the purchasing policy, which is part of the Code of Ordinances. Those changes were to remove 2 council members from having to be in the bid process, and also a change in the Public Works law as it related to the bidding of that from $100,000 to $250,000. That was a state law that was passed. So when we brought forth those changes, you asked us to take a more in-depth look at that chapter, and we have done that. Just so you know, we have contacted some other local governments that are our size to get an idea of what their purchasing policies were. We've also done a deep dive into kind of what do those expenses look like. So I've shared all that information with you in your packet. What I've tried to do for you is to do a comparison table. So I did put that in front of you so that you can see that, but that is also a part of your packet. There are some administrative changes in there, and I'm just going to try to hit the highlights, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions because there are, as you can see, there is quite a long list, but there are some administrative changes as it relates to some positions that changed in '24. We had a finance director that's changed to a finance manager, so there's some need to change several sections there. There's also, of course, the change that Mr. Phillips brought to you as it relates to the bidding process, and that would now be the city manager and his designee, and also the user. Normally, that would be the department head. So those type of administrative changes are there. We also have done some significant changes as it relates to the threshold for purchases. But one thing I do want to remind you as we talk about changing these levels, please be aware that in section 260, that all of these are approved through the budget process. So when we're talking about purchase, we're talking about things that you have approved in the budget. I think it's important just to take a minute to point that out. So when we talk about routine purchases, currently that's anything under $2,000. We're talking about changing that to $5,000. In our assessment of other cities, that seems very commonplace, and so we would recommend that change. That does not require any quotes. So then you kind of move into the business of, getting quotes. And currently in the ordinance today, you would get quotes if it was between the $2,000 and $50,000. So what we're suggesting is a pretty significant change to that, where that would go from the $5,000 that we talked about changing to $100,000, and that would be approved through the department head level. And then the next change would be from $100,000 to $250,000, so we're going up to $250,000, and those would be approved through the city manager. But anything over $100,000, we would bring to this body to get council approval for those, and those would also require the 3 quotes. So, invitations to bid and requests for proposal, you see that our thresholds were 50. We are talking about going to 250 on both invitations to bid and requests for proposals, and that's a pretty big jump, right? But when you look at our purchases that I provided to you, most of what you're talking about in those 2 realms of 50 to 100, 100 to 250 are items that we buy on state contract. So you'll see lots of equipment and vehicles, all of that we purchase through state contract. So we're not actually bringing that through a bidding process because we're using those resources to buy those at good prices. So our universe is really very small. So in staff's opinion, the change is really not that big to move to the 250. I feel pretty confident in recommending that to you for those changes. Along with the public works law changing to 250, that would mean that bid bonds and performance and payment bonds would also increase from 100 to 250. So that would just follow suit along with that. And I think those are the highlights. There are some other changes as it relates to emergency purchases and local vendor preference, but those are kind of the big items that I would call to your attention. I know there's a lot to intake here. I hope you've had time to review it, but I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Just very quickly, could you speak to the time that this would save for staff or the convenience that this would add to this process?
It would be an enormous amount of time for us to be able to get items that we need and not have to go through bidding processes. It would be tremendous for us to be able to do this. I know a lot of department heads are very excited about some of these changes, and they've shared that with me.
Mr. Mayor, I think there's a really good example that we can use. Councilman Thomason last year asked us to look at doing a drainage project on Woodbine, correct? We knew it was going to be in the $200,000 to $250,000 range. By the time that we actually did the design, went to the bidding process, it probably took us, 9 months to get the project going. I would estimate that we could probably get it going probably less than 3 months. So you're going to see some substantial changes in the smaller type projects and the small procurement.
All right, very good. Any further discussion?
I have a couple of comments. For the bond requirements, before it was $50,000, kind of like a performance bond, right? basically. For the Public Works law, it required, that was basically half of the 100,000. We're bumping, that went up by state law to 250. So it's going up to 250 also, so it's kind of keeping it
Keeping in uniform with.
in uniform.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And then the other question I had was doing the bid openings. It's removing the 2 city council members, and I think the history of that goes back a long time. But instead it said using the city manager or designee. Would it make sense to have the city manager and his designee and a department head? Like just 2 people to do that, just to be, again, just for checks and balances to make sure
I
everything's,
think the actual ordinance, when you read it, will say, because, I kind of summarize that here, it says the user, comma, city manager, or his designee,
So we have like
we-
multiple options.
The
Well, that's
user,
the-
in my mind, is the department head, and that's typically the person who has put together the actual invitation to bid or request for proposal.
okay, I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yes,
Again,
sir, I
just so it's
think-
not just one person opening the bid. I think
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the
I'll make
ordinance
that
as
motion.
written? And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, carries unanimously. With that, we move into visitors, petitions, communications, and complaint. First, we have a request from Tony Caro with Red Letter Merchant to block 2 parking spaces on West Washington Street on May 9th, 2026, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. for an anniversary celebration. Mr. Caro, if you would please approach the podium.
Good afternoon, Mayor Shepherd, Councilwoman Jenkins, good to see y'all. The last time I saw you, I believe Senator Warnock was in the shop, so good to see you again. My first time seeing everyone else here today, but I plan to be here a lot more often. But first things first here is I'm sorry I couldn't be here a couple weeks ago. I know this is like the second request I've made to have a few parking spots blocked. I unfortunately had a cousin pass like 2 days before I was supposed to be here, and I just wasn't able to make it. So apologies for a couple weeks ago when I was not able to make it. So I heard there were some questions you guys had about having the parking spots there. People always park in the gore spot there with the striped lines anyway. So I was just trying to get the spots actually that are parking spots in front of my shop, because I want to have tables and chairs set out front for my 7-year anniversary at 7 West Washington Street. I plan to have some live music being played. I'm going to have like some dollar bins to give away to the community. And any questions you guys have for me, just let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Caro? Seeing none, we move into discussion. And actually, Chief, do we have any concerns from all right, thank you. Any discussion from council?
I just have a question. Regarding the live music, the hours of the live music would be the same time you'd want to, from 2 to 8?
2 to 8, my store hours are to like 9 p.m., but I'm flexible on any of the hours if you're concerned about certain hours. I know Monday through Friday, there's a good bit of traffic, like for delivery trucks and things of that nature, but on Saturdays, I don't think I've ever really seen a delivery truck there or any reason to really cause a disturbance. I'll let all the neighbors know what's going on. Yeah, those 2 I mean, like I said, people always park in the parking spots that aren't parking spots, so that's why I was really trying to reserve those 2 spots there. So it's like right in front of my shop. There's still a good flow of traffic there. And I think originally I was asking for like a road closure or even half a road closure. But again, I'll save that for another date because I do have some plans. I've recently partnership with Lime Creek Brewing. I host a market there at the Fayetteville location, the Peachtree City location, and the Newnan location. And basically, I'll talk about that later at another time, but I want to start doing a lot more community events in downtown. I do have a little bit, I don't know, like young adults, the youth comes to my shop. or, you know, really cool older people as well, because I cater to a lot of vintage clothing, stuff like that, band tees, you name it, old school to new school. I have a really good diverse of customers that come in the shop, which is really cool. So I really want to start showcasing that in downtown Newnan. I met with the CEO of CEC just last week, and we plan to start hopefully hosting events kind of in this area too, to have music played. And I see people playing the square and all the time, especially on Friday and Saturday nights. It seems like the community enjoys live music out there in the square. So I live in downtown Newnan. I'm maybe 5 minutes. I walked here within 5 minutes. I can walk to my shop in 2 minutes. So I've lived in downtown for over a decade now. I did nonprofit work in downtown Newnan before I started my shop in that very location with the community welcome house. So I love Newnan, and I'm just trying to build that community around the shop.
No, and I get that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
I was asking if you're just aware and understand that, like, our noise ordinance and stuff like that. I just don't want to get, you know, if it's going too late or too loud, or, you know, we've heard those kind of things
It's 10
before.
PM, am I correct? Is it
Pardon?
10? Isn't the noise ordinance 10 p.m., I believe?
Well, I'll let you get with the police, and they can flesh that in as needed.
Sure.
But I appreciate you.
Sure.
But you're only asking from 2 to 8 p.m.
Correct.
And we might have some questions about those other events in the future, but for now, is there further discussion?
Just for clarification, so each picture is from two different point of views. One space seems on one side of there's an alley entrance. So are we closing a parking spot on each side of the alley entrance, and then those two would be connected? That space would be then filled in with the tables and chairs, or would you only be occupying the two parking spaces, just for clarity?
So I'm sure there'll be people like standing around, so they will be kind of in that middle area as well. Yeah, the tables and chairs I plan to put right in those parking spaces on each side. So that, yes, that is on both sides of the shop. In the middle is the alley right there, just to confirm.
Okay, thanks.
So it would not be impeding the alley.
I mean, I was gonna set up a tent in the middle right there of the alley, and if that's an issue, I can move it to in front of my shop there. But I haven't had any. Apparently that no one really owns that alley right there, but
It's a pedestrian alley, so.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a
Just want to make
vehicular
sure we're not
alley.
impeding anybody,
No.
like deliveries or anything like that. Okay.
no. That was one reason I went for Saturday. On
Right.
Monday through Friday, you see a lot more traffic through there.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion?
I just have one, not for the applicant, but just a statement or question for Mr. Phillips. You know, I support this one time, but we are talking about, because you mentioned multiple times and how it could expand, and so I just want to talk in front of you, not at you, but to let you know what else we've been talking about before you came. But so, do we charge when someone's doing construction and they drop a dumpster in parking spaces? Do they pay for those closed spaces? Okay, so, and that would be somebody that maybe is doing work on the space,
Correct.
adding value to a building, and we charge them to block spaces. Okay.
And that's allowed administratively by the code.
Correct. Okay,
to
so I just
distract.
want to point that as we look forward, y'all, we should be consistent, like we do value parking, okay? And even though that person is doing work, adding value to that building downtown, probably could be bringing in a new tenant, who knows what it is, we still charge them to block a space. So I think we should look at that down the road, is how does that apply to something like this? Because we want to encourage this, but we need to be fair, because this is shared parking. Just because these parking spaces are in front of somebody's suite or building doesn't mean they're yours. It's shared parking. So as we look at our thing, I just want to bring this is a good example. We want to encourage this, but we want to just be fair to everybody doing it.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the request from
So
Mr.
moved.
Caro?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. We move on to item O, a request from Porch Fest organizers to extend street closures to accommodate a family-friendly area with First Baptist Church. We have, I believe we have.
Chris, I can add in if you need me to.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, I'm kind of speaking for Melody. She's out with her injured.
And if you could give your name for the record, thank you so much.
My name is Chris Yeomans, and I'm one of the Newnan Porch Fest organizers. So what we're going to do is request the close of a section of Brown Street so that the First Baptist Church of Newnan can participate in our event. They're going to host a family-friendly section with tables, chairs, open up their restrooms to the community. They'll have a little music over there. We've worked closely with the city to devise a plan to achieve this without creating dead ends or traffic congestion. And we've also confirmed with businesses on Madison Street that they won't need access to their parking lots. They gave us their permission to shut that area down on Brown.
Thank you so much. All right, discussion from council. Seeing none, do you have a motion to accept the request?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Carries unanimously. We do not have any items for executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With that, we are adjourned.
8:01.